When Martha Hall Kelly released her first novel, Lilac Girls, in 2016, it was an instant hit that went on to sell over 2 million copies and publish in 50 countries. Kelly followed that success with 2 best-selling prequels that turned her growing audience into an army of devoted fans. In the final part of our interview, Kelly talks about the impact readers have on her work, including her new novel, The Golden Doves. Hi, it's Brenda with HEC Books, where we discuss books with the authors who write them. If you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe for more content. Now, let's hear more from Martha Hall Kelly on writing for readers. You talk about that you studied journalism in college and then you went into advertising, and it sounds like such a stretch to write a novel, but actually there's so much seduction that happens in writing, in advertising, and in a novel. At the end of the day, you've got to keep them interested.
You know, no one's ever, and I've always been surprised, no one's ever brought that up before. It's such a good point, because when you are selling a product, it's the same kind of a thing. You have to be all about the person that you are selling a product to. And, you're not really selling with a novel, but it has to be all about them. And I think sometimes writers can be a little bit more about, well, this was what I wanted to say. But I really am always thinking about, do you think the reader will like this? Will this keep people engaged? Is it exciting enough? And I really keep my finger on the pulse, or I try to, when I talk to people at events and, get more information about how they're feeling about the books.
Okay, I want to talk about your fans. You have an army behind you.
They're just the best. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but
I'd love to look at your social media because every single picture looks like you're at a reunion.
I know. It's really great. I think Lilac Girls just really, struck this chord in people. And every time I go to an event, people they come up to me and they're crying and saying, you don't know what this book did for me. And I'm just always, every time someone says that, I'm just like flabbergasted. How did this happen? It's really, it's the most wonderful thing that's ever happened to me.
And Lilac Girls was an immediate hit, which you said caught you off guard. You did not expect that.
It was. I didn't think anyone was going to read it, honestly. Even when I queried agents and things, I thought, who's going to want to represent me for this? And actually the hardcover was successful, but it wasn't until the paperback that it went crazy. Yeah.
So what's it like now with your 4th novel? Is it like a conversation between you and your fans in a way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, what they are always saying is, okay, what's the next one? Because they read it so quickly.
They're hungry.
One person came to an event and she had already listened to it, and she was one of my first events. And she was saying, so when's the next one coming? I was like, you need to slow down because I can't keep up with you. But yeah, I'm really, really grateful because that's like my oxygen, is the people that are so supportive of me that way. It's really nice.
Does that relationship impact your process and your plans?
Oh, definitely.
How
yeah.
so?
Well, they tell me what they want. Yeah. It's really interesting going on book tour because it's like a giant focus group. I used to be in advertising, and we would, do focus groups on potato chips and cake frosting, and it was really, really helpful. And I feel like these are focus groups because they tell me. And I'll say, well, here's what I'm working on next. What do you think? And they'll clap and say, yes, yes, yes. It's really interesting. It's like a little incubator.
One of the things that I love about all your books and that your readers love about your books is that it doesn't have to end with that story. There are so many resources out there. Your blog is amazing. I can tell that you really enjoy
thank you.
sharing these little tidbits. Tell us about that.
It's so fun. Once I find out about it, I just want to share it. But yeah, in the books, oh my goodness. I feel like A Woman of No Importance about Virginia Hall is that reads like fiction. Operation Paperclip is so great by Annie Jacobson. That's the definitive work about Operation Paperclip. And of course, Irene Zisblatt's Fifth Diamond.
Why is it important to you, too, that your readers take this story and then go on to those sources and really learn more?
Well, that's what I like to do when I read a book. I don't want it to just end with that, kind of a closed community. I want it to spark conversations and a dialogue about what happened during the Holocaust.
I feel like there's a theme throughout your work about survival and the human condition. And I feel like we see that in Josie and Arlette. At the end of all of this, they are survivors. And and despite all of the horrifying things that happened to them, it did not break them.
Yes, and that is what I get more people reaching out to me about. Just the idea of hope, that you can survive it and it's going to be okay. And I think I'm trying to tell myself that too. But I met a woman named Irene Zisblatt down on my book tour for Lilac Girls way back in 2016. And she had been operated on, experimented on by Mengele as a 8-year-old girl. Her story is so, so sad.
That's right. That's one of the books that you've talked about, her memoir.
Yes, The Fifth Diamond. Yes, it's so, so good. And I feel like that inspired me with this book because she was a true, she didn't just survive it, she flourished. She came to this country, she had children and grandchildren, and she's so positive. She's in her 90s now. And she's such an inspiration. And that's really what I want to bring to readers is hope that we can get through these kind of things. I mean, it's all happening again today, and I feel like if we know about it, we can. It can be a cautionary tale, and that there's hope.
So, of course, the question you always get: what's next?
Oh my goodness, I love that question because that's what I'm steeped in right now. What's next is what I'm calling right now the last of the Lilac Girls. And it is a novel about Martha's Vineyard during World War II. And there was a lot more going on out there than people realize. My mother's family came to Martha's Vineyard in 1891, the Smiths. And she grew up there and used to tell me that the Army had a base there, and she would watch. They lived on a farm. She was very poor. And they would watch the soldiers go by in these convoys of jeeps, and they were so proud of having them there. And Martha's Vineyard has a lot of cliffs, and what they were doing is they were practicing on the cliffs. They were rappelling in order to practice for D-Day at Normandy. And so she said that they were so sad when they found out that almost 50% of those boys never came home. And I just thought, you know what, my mom's gone now, but I'd love to dig into Martha's Vineyard during World War II. So there were also a lot of U-boats out in the Atlantic around Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, and way more than people realize.
It's so exciting to be able to keep going to these new points in this human story.
Yeah, I always figure if I'm excited about writing it, even after 4 books, then, hopefully that excitement will translate.
So when your readers walk away from reading one of your books, what is it that you do want them to feel? Is it that?
It is that. I think it's hope and positivity because it's a dark subject, but I feel like, and a lot of people with Lilac Girls, they said, oh, I almost put it down. It was so hard to read about the concentration camps. But I think that it honors people that died there and that survived it. And I think to soft pedal it is to do them a disservice. So, yeah, I think that's what I want people to remember, is that you can come through it, whatever it is in your life, just like these women did, and give people hope.
Martha Hall Kelly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for watching, and please give this video a thumbs up and keep an eye out for our next HEC book interview. To get notified when it comes out, click the subscribe button.